Good afternoon, Warband. Welcome to the 11th official Red Pill Cult meeting. Hey. We will be continuing our research into one Sean of Think Before You Sleep. At least we will if I can figure out why my mouth isn't moving properly. 1 second. Yeah, I'm not sure why, but could just be a lighting issue. Anyway, welcome. So we've got Cubing Speed, T96, Random Gen Z Bastard, Captain Bang Daddy, Sir Yidis, and Happy Citizen. Welcome. All right, well. So for those of you new to this, Think Before You Sleep has deleted a large number of his videos as he rebrands himself. What we're doing is we're going to look at some of that deleted content because, courtesy of the MGTOW Mirror project, it was all archived. So this is currently archived video 18. Don't be a loser. Let's just hop right into this.
Take the next step in this movement. I think it's time for us to get out of the red pill rage phase and start working on bigger things. Because to me, it seems like, well, before I got into MGTOW, I found the anti-feminist movement, which was around 2015 or so, where that started getting very, actually 2014 possibly, because it was right around the time I graduated college.
Okay, for reference, this video was made or at least uploaded first in 2019. So him getting out of college around 2014, 2015. We're slowly piecing together a timeline here. But we'll keep going because this definitely ties back to one of his earlier videos where he thinks that the red pill of that particular time, keep in mind 2019, there's a lot of rage, and yet he also claims to watch MGTOW content creators such as Turd Flinging Monkey. But he thinks that he's capable of leading men beyond the red pill. Well, let's see what he thinks. Or at least let's see what he says.
And you'd see all these anti-feminist skeptics that could be like Thunderfoot or Sargon or what's that chick, a shoe on head, and a teal deer, things like that, and any other anti-feminist armored skeptic, any other anti-feminist channel you can think of.
Those are your anti-feminist channels? Sargon? Shoe on Head? It's been a long time since since I saw any of Teal Deer's content. That was a very clever play on words being honest there, but really Sargon? Pretty sure Sargon married a single mother. You think that he's an anti-feminist? Funny how like being even vaguely rational qualifies one as anti-feminist. I don't know, maybe 4 years ago Sargon was a little more based. I'll admit. Did not particularly watch much of his content, but we'll just continue. We're not even a minute in.
And I would watch that for a while because it's really good, because I'd never heard anything go against that ideology, because I had been in college and been in school, and no one had ever said the opposite opinion, because most people who teach schools are people who are on the left. So I never really got to hear a dissenting opinion from that. And it turns out there's certainly a fair reason why. It's because the arguments on the opposite side are so powerful that the opposites on the side of feminism would easily falter. And so it's kind of an attractive idea, but after a while, you get kind of tired of seeing the same old thing. Oh, it's another video where we're going to criticize BuzzFeed, or it's another anti-feminist video, it's another triggered video. It's the same shit over and over again. It just seems like a bunch of complaining, and we're never really progressing.
Yeah, given everything that's on the MGTOW archive, given the number of channels that I know were around at this time, there was more content than that. Now, maybe that's not content that Sean was aware of, but there was certainly more in-depth and thoughtful content. I'm pretty sure Stardust has been around since then. Almost certain that Archangel Liberation Y, he was around. Pretty sure Chronic was around at that time too. So we've had more in-depth videos than... He's essentially straw manning this. He is essentially straw manning the Red Pill movement of the era in order to prop himself up as someone more suited to guide men, someone more suited to help men. All right. Let's just keep going here. Let's just keep going. There's a lot to get through in this one. Oop. Don't you hate it when your hotkeys do various things to other programs? Whatever, let's keep going.
Now, on the MGTOW side, I'll give MGTOW a little extra credit because the female nature videos are certainly fairly useful. These female psychology videos are very useful as long as they don't contain just a fair bit of complaining. But I think if we want to take this to the next step, I think this should get a little bit, not overly so, but a little bit personally political. Which is to say that if we're going to actually make things better and not just wait for the collapse, because you don't want a collapse. Now, certainly there's something...
MGTOW, you certainly don't want to collapse? Okay, well, guess what? The MRA's tried for a century. Like, how... You've claimed to watch TFM. How do you not realize this? This was tried. It's been tried through non-collapse methods. And it doesn't work. It never has worked. It's not going to work. But let's see if he has maybe at least an original argument as for why he thinks that it will work this time.
Like that might have to happen, but it's not going to be very fun. Things are going to get very evil. Things are going to get very criminal. People are going to be stealing and killing, and it could be a...
Yes, there's going to be a lot of death. Like, welcome. Sorry if you're a little late getting the memo, but yes, the collapse is going to involve a lot of death. So?
It could be an Islamic collapse where we're going to be expecting bombings every single day like they're doing so in Europe, or every so often where that guy said that, well, you're living in a big state in Europe, you just got to expect Islamic terrorism. It's just a fact of life. And it very well could be like that, or it could be worse in this country if we let this whole thing go down. And if we let America go down, there's not very many places you can go to.
Let it go down? It's going down whether we want it to or not. The West is collapsing. There's no question of this. It's collapsing. It's just a question of how fast and how prepared are you going to be for it.
That will be safe. One of the reasons I'm learning Japanese is because Japan has not fallen into the social...
Let him finish.
So justice left ideology.
Okay.
And so...
you needed to add a word there. It's called yet. It has not yet But what the heck do you mean it hasn't? The only reason. What the heck do you mean Japan hasn't? They've got a freaking marriage rate at the very least comparable to the U.S. This wasn't new. You've got women in the corporate world girl bossing it up. And they're highly undesirable to the local men lifestyle wise. I mean, yeah, aesthetically they might be attractive, but that's about it. Yeah, they're not fat. Like, they're not fat and they're not as openly rude and obnoxious as the Americans. That's about it. Oh, and Japan is highly xenophobic, but again, TFM made this argument. They're not going to take women's rights away. They're not going to fix their collapsing birth rate with like local increases in the birth rate, like between locals, natives. Let's say natives. The native population is not going to increase the birth rate. They need the tax revenue. They're going to have to rely on immigration, or they too are going to collapse, and they're going to choose immigration over collapse. So, I mean, I might be a sentient cloud of Kush, but even I can't tell what the heck you're smoking.
Certainly, if America goes to hell, I will be fleeing the hell out of this country and moving to Japan.
Japan. What, you got to teach yoga in Japan? And like, if the U.S. goes to hell, you're going to flee. Well, it's been 4 years since the U.S. has slid ever further, and pretty sure that you've moved to Texas to be with your e-thought girlfriend, who is saving herself for marriage. So I'm guessing that going to Japan, we got like not the Philippines, like not Vietnam. I mean, Taiwan or China probably would be off the menu. Vietnam heavily communist, so probably not on your priority list there either. But not the Philippines. You ain't gonna buy the guide to living in Southeast Asia. No, no. You're gonna pick Japan, like probably the most expensive place to live in Southeast Asia. I mean, it's only when you actually stop and think about the things that he's saying that you really start to realize how much bullshit. Was there this much ignorance in it 4 years ago? Like, it seems like such a long time, but 4 years isn't that long. He's smoking Fenty's underwear fumes. 4 years ago, I don't think he was. I mean, he's probably smoking that now. That reminds me, I still got that video of Oki sniffing his girl's underwear. He deleted that, but I had that shit backed up. But, but whatever. Just keep going. She's not even 3 minutes in.
If that's a possibility at that point. This could be many years down the line, though. But if you actually want this problem to be solved, I think what we should start doing is getting past the red pill rage phase and start fixing things. And of course, I'm going to follow Jordan Peterson's idea.
How he going flee? He's the first to expire. Lol.
No, exactly. If he's waiting for the collapse to happen before he flees, he's not going to be like, oh, if it's a possibility. No. Like, I'm sorry. I'm gonna pick an example here, but during the bad World War II time, when a whole bunch of unsavory types were being rounded up, it wasn't the people that decided to flee at the last second that had a high survival rate. It's the ones that saw the writing on the wall and fled the country well in advance. If you're waiting until everything turns to shit before you leave, you will be too late. Let's just keep going.
idea on this is the best way to fix society is to fix yourself. If you're going
So you don't actually have an understanding of how to fix the societal problems. It's just fix yourself. Because everyone cleaning their room and going to the gym and getting fit, that is going to culminate in feminism being driven out of political influence. This is underwear gnomes level of planning.
to go without marriage, you don't get to just do that. You don't just get to tap out on life if you're not going to get married. And I think a lot of us do.
You can. I mean, you can tap out of life whenever the heck you want. Not necessarily recommended, but you can tap out whenever you want. And it works just fine for the herbivore men in Japan. Live minimalist life. Contribute as little as possible to society. But what you're saying, no, just because you don't get married, you still have to sacrifice to keep the nation going for those that do. No. No responsibility without authority.
Want to marry. Certainly Sandman, the most popular MGTOW channel, I believe to date, has mentioned before that he wanted to get married and have kids. But of course, you cannot do that with modern women, and you cannot do that with modern laws. So
you can't do that in Japan either. Right. It's the thing. You can't do it with modern laws. Yes, that's why you leave the country.
If you want to restore that institution, or certainly we can go to love bots and artificial wombs, and that would be an unfortunate consequence, but a consequence I'm not willing to pass up if that's what has to happen, because I will do quite a lot to avoid a collapse, and if that means, and if unfortunately women have to be replaced for the time being, well, I don't have that much of a problem with that.
You're willing to do whatever it takes to prevent a collapse, huh? Yeah. Was that some of the justification for why you deleted your older content? For why you threw the originals under the bus? Was that to prevent the collapse? Do you have some sort of noble, higher purpose in preventing the collapse with your current direction? And you think you're going to prevent the collapse through this kind of messaging, through this kind of content? Just, hey, I'll parrot what Jordan Peterson says and emphasize like how, well, no, you can't do that. You can't just let things fall apart. Yes, you can. Yes, you absolutely can.
I'd rather not be cold hungry. I've been to a lot of third world countries. I'd rather America not be like that. If you've been to third world countries before, you might understand what I'm talking about. Those places are. It's
fair to list the third world countries that you're talking about here, or is just like, oh, third world countries, and then you're gonna let your audience just imagine kind of stuff. Whereas, what qualifies as a third world country to you? Define your terms.
It's like every time I've been to one, because my parents like to travel a lot, and so I went to a lot of them as a kid. It's like, oh, I'm so glad I'm just visiting this place, because if I had to live here, this would be hell. Like places that don't even have toilets and shit. Or places where you go to a store and there's no food on the shelf. Or you can't get any sort of personal care products, or you can't.
Like toilet paper. Remember that, guys? Remember when you couldn't get toilet paper because there's mass panic buying? What about food on the shelves? Yeah, that doesn't happen in America. That doesn't happen in the West. There's not a food shortage at all. No.
Everybody's just so depressed, and there's crime everywhere. Nobody has any nice cars. Everything's just.
there's a crime everywhere in America. If you don't have the majority of the population being depressed, no, that's a third world country thing, not an American thing.
Destroyed. So America could certainly become like that. And if we're going to avoid that, we don't just get to tap out for not being married. You don't just get to sit on your couch and masturbate all day and play video games all day. You have to be doing something.
Yeah, it's called living a minimalist life. Like, Hey, what do you mean? You have to be doing something. If you can afford to sit on your couch all day and jerk off, do it because you earn that. Simple as. Why are you coming in here and shaming men for not wanting to contribute to a society that hates them? Hmm? Like, again, you're only talking about the things that men are doing. Like, what? What? You're not going to tell a woman what to do? Hmm? No, no, no. It's only men. Like, men not wanting to save society is somehow worse than everyone who's actively working to destroy it for their own personal gain? Hmm? Well, I suppose that the people in a position to control things for their own personal gain, they wouldn't listen to someone like you.
Because there is an example of that working, and that example is America. When this happened back
Go on.
in the 1700s, when Americans were being screwed over by the British government for taxes, it wasn't a bunch of losers that changed it. It was a bunch of successful businessmen.
I think that that is at best a gross oversimplification of what happened in 1776. Bunch of losers sitting on the couch. I'm pretty sure that they didn't just get together and have a bunch of business meetings and discussions. They didn't change it through peaceful, legal reform. Let's see if you acknowledge this.
And that created one of the most powerful countries in the world, actually the most powerful country in the world. Because what often happens is...
So your summary of the founding of America is a bunch of businessmen got together when they were being oppressed by their government. That's what you believe the American Civil War was, a bunch of businessmen getting together. I'm Canadian and I have a better understanding of the founding of the United States than you do.
When you have a political movement, those political movements are led by people who are resentful. To copy Jordan Peterson yet again, he has mentioned before that, well, do you believe in Marxism because you want to help the poor, or do you believe in Marxism because you're jealous of the rich? And that's what happens in a lot of revolutions, is that people are just jealous of the ruling class, and things would be perfect if it was just me being their leader as opposed to them. Where
Yes. The French Revolution happened because people were jealous of their leaders. It wasn't at all that they were starving to death. Yeah, no. You get people to... Okay, there's a difference between a political movement and a revolution. A political movement is what feminism is. A revolution is what happened in 1776. What happened in France in, I admit I don't know that date off the top of my head, but the French Revolution, the American Revolution. Like, there's a difference, and you know what that is? Filtered. Yeah, that's what that is. The kind of stuff that you probably can't say on YouTube without getting demonetized or copyright stricken. But I'm just copy Neurosama and say filtered rather than getting into graphic descriptions. Let's keep going. This is definitely one of the worst takes we've had so far. I'm drinking an energy drink right now, but screw it. I'm going right to booze after this.
that's not really an altruistic idea. That's a very selfish idea, which is I want to be the highest in the dominance hierarchy because that gives me no sexual marketplace value. So I'm going to take over the power structure and do that. And that's disguised as caring. That's disguised as kindness and compassion when it's not. You can tell it's not kind and
Just like you pretend to care about men, meanwhile you're trying to climb to the top of the red pill hierarchy by throwing everyone who you're stealing from under the bus.
compassion because they murder people as the answer. People who are using this by any means necessary idea are worse than the problem. Are the people who are just going to create a regime that's not only bad but worse than the regime that's happened before and that happened.
Oh, really? Isn't that exactly how the French Revolution happened and the American Revolution? Because guess what? It wasn't just a whole bunch of people standing around protesting with some signs. Their biggest act of revolution was not throwing a bunch of tea into the Boston Harbor. It involved a lot of bloodshed. It involved a lot of stuff that was by some apparently more extreme means than you want. So, on one hand, you're advocating that men need to stand together and do something, like the American Revolution, in order to save the country from the tyranny of the government. But, you can't go too far. You can't just be taking people out. All right. All right. Let's keep going then.
Happens over and over and over again, and it's likely because the people who are trying to create the change are not the best people. So if MGTOW is going to create any sort of political change, if we're going to actually avoid a massive crash which will negatively affect everybody, unless
but overwhelmingly you. Let's be honest, it will overwhelmingly negatively affect you. Because guess what? You're a vegan at this point in your life. Vegans cannot maintain their diet and survive as vegans in a post-collapse society. There is no demand for yoga instructors in a post-collapse society. There is no demand for people who studied fitness in post-secondary education in a post-collapse society. You need society to keep going off the sacrifices of men so that you can maintain your comfort level as a useless parasite.
you're just like super rich. So if you're one of the few MGTOW that's
No, exactly. MTNTXII. MGTOW is not about it. He is trying to turn MGTOW into MRAs. That's what he's adding. He's saying that MGTOW are raging and that they shouldn't be waiting for the collapse. They should instead take the MRA stance and try to actively change things. But apparently the only examples he can think of for active change involve a lot of bloodshed and hardship, which, guess what? That's what's going to happen in the collapse too. So he wants other men to die to keep his life going, to keep his way of life going, because he knows that when the collapse happens, he's going to go. But if revolution happens, he has a higher chance of staying alive because other men who are more likely to survive the collapse will die instead, actually fighting to change things.
super rich, maybe it won't affect you. But if you're like the rest of us who are going for middle class, upper middle class, and maybe a little bit above that, maybe lower upper class, which is how society would have to work, we're going to suffer quite a bit.
Yes, you're going to suffer quite a bit because middle class, upper middle class. Wait, what about everyone who doesn't even meet that requirement? The middle class has been being eroded for decades by this point. There basically is no middle class now.
And so if we're going to avoid that, we have to be like the people who started this country. Well,
Finish.
if you're in Canada, I guess, well, you're in Canada. But the people who started America were very, very successful. They were very, very, fairly altruistic. And even like
They were also willing to do what needed to be done. You are not.
Man, for that just has impressed me. I don't know why George Washington said this. Maybe I should do some more research on him. But they were gonna.
Yeah. I'd suggest you do more research on exactly how America was founded, because it was more than just secret meetings between powerful businessmen. There was a little more to it.
Make him king, and he said no. I don't want that power.
Well, yeah, no shit. He just saw what happened to the last king.
The only way you can become a person like that who can take a really who can resist power like that is to have power personally. Is to not be a loser. So if you are a loser, or if you're planning on doing nothing, you're planning on ghosting society and doing nothing, don't.
Oh, if you're planning on doing this thing, don't. Why? Because I said so. And what are you? A vegan yoga instructor who probably didn't even do much reading, heard some other more intelligent men's talking points, and is regurgitating them to try and build your own clout and get men to go back and contributing to the society that keeps you alive at their expense.
Because if you do, if enough of us do this, especially if enough of us do this and don't get married and don't reproduce, don't reproduce a positive population, everything will fall. We can flip this around, though.
How?
We can flip this around. We can certainly take all the articles that are calling MGTOWs a bunch of incel losers that would never be attracted to women anywhere. A bunch
like you. People like you. So we take the people like you, okay, and then what?
Just red pill rage assholes. We can take that and we can still talk about female nature, which certainly this channel will still include. I've already got a video that was going to be released today, but I decided to release this one instead. That's more so on female nature because it's important to talk about that. I still want to have that as a part of the channel because in case people are first timers to this channel, they should know something about how women work and something about why women cannot be trusted with the power they have. By the way, men should not be trusted with that kind of power either. Nobody should be trusted with that kind of power, so we have to get rid of that type of power structure. But the only way we're going to...
Oh, so we need to collapse the existing power structure for the good of the people, because no one can be trusted with it. Just keep going. Let's just keep going. God, we're going to be here an hour for a 15-minute video.
Do it is if we do so in the most correct possible way, which is to constantly be working in our own lives for the best possible good. The reason that you're...
By whose definition of good? Who defines the best possible good?
Your MGTOW is because you want things to get better. You want these laws to go away. You want to...
We want to survive. I do not say that I am MGTOW because, yes, I hold out in the long term, having family and children. But that's why I don't say I'm MGTOW. But I understand that MGTOW, no, they're not trying to change the laws. This isn't the equivalent of a sex strike. This is, we accept things are fucked royally, and we want to survive. We want to survive and live our lives with as few restrictions on them as possible. It is not attempting to change through political action. All right, just keep going. Come on, keep going.
I don't know, hopefully... And it's hard to say this because it's so evil on the behalf of the opposite sex. You want to either repair that relationship if it's possible,
No, exactly, Maitreya. You need to have a capacity for good and evil. Remember, just a couple videos ago, what, 10 videos ago? And then I define good and evil. Because that's the thing. You have to do things for the greatest possible good. But if you're going to win, you have to develop your shadow, develop your capacity for evil. Not even 20 videos into his old content, and he's already all over the place with his consistencies. It's like he just downloads the latest update by watching whatever's new in the manosphere at the time, and then regurgitates some gobbledygook to try and sound relevant.
Or replace it with a better one if that's unfortunately happens. Again, I don't want that to happen, but I will certainly do that to save society, is replace women if necessary. Hopefully.
Oh, you'll replace women if necessary. Oh, such a great sacrifice you will do. You will replace women. Are you researching the artificial womb? No? Have you donated to it? No. So what are you doing? What are you doing to prevent the collapse? Oh, you're trying to get other men to do things in your place. You are doing nothing. So you are getting other men to do things that you're not going to do. But you'll accept it. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sean. Thank you for accepting artificial women and the artificial women. Thank you for accepting female replacements. Such a noble goal. Like, never could have possibly even begun to do such a thing without your personal acceptance. Wait for the super chat to pop off before I...
Hockey mask time, Gregors.
Thank you very much, Mr. Plisket. And guys, that if you're going to donate through super chat, just do the bare minimum. Don't give Neil any more money than you absolutely have to. If you want to donate more, donation links pinned at the top. But keep going.
That doesn't have to happen, though. Well, we'll see. It depends. But the only way we're going to get around this is if we...
JG, RPCM stands for Red Pill Cult Meeting. Because apparently the Red Pill is a cult, so this is where you get on your red robes, and we gather around, and this is the equivalent of a sermon. So, yep. Jeez. Apparently this key combo does the aspect ratio. Blech. All right, come on. 6 minutes to go. 6 minutes.
We all constantly work towards the best possible ends. Whatever your problems are, fix them. And of course, if you're going to do that, you don't fix them right now. You fix them a little bit, and over time, over 5 years, over 10 years, over 20 years, they will get better. So what is the smallest decision that you can make today that will help improve your life for the future? Maybe it's starting by being cleaner. Maybe it's like, I really want to do this. It could be, let me just use my own example.
So we're going to save the West and America from collapse by being the best version of ourselves. That's how it's going to happen, huh? All right, we're going to clean our rooms. We're going to just be all nice and neat and tidy. And we're going to deny ourselves all sorts of personal pleasures for this ambiguous greater good that somehow is going to work out.
He not living in reality Venti will bang his killer.
Bold of you to assume that the guy who takes out Sean is even going to want Venti. But we know that she would in such circumstances, so yes. Uh, yeah, don't worry, guys. I make sure to sacrifice the goat before each meeting to consecrate the stream. You got to sacrifice it to ensure good quality. Oh, that's 5.5 minutes to go. Gee. Thank you, Mr. Prisk. Thanks for the 1377, man. Uh, I'm pretty sure that's either conversion rate or a reference to something. I'm not sure which, but thank you. Uh, keep going. Keep going.
These are things I've done. When I started studying Japanese again, because I'd stopped for about for about 10 years or so. I was studying in high school all the way up to my first year in college. And then I got into martial arts. Martial arts took all my time, and basically I had to stop because I didn't have time to do both. And when I got back into it, I had found the idea that if you're going to do things that are hard, if you're going to discipline yourself, they have to be things that you like. So you be very, very careful about what you spend your time on. Like, because I've always had this idea that I've had a couple medical books around, and I'm like, well, I want to know how to be an EMT just for the hell of it, because I think it'd be good to know some of the emergency medicine, emergency medical technician, or like an ambulance person is an EMT. If you did not know that terminology.
Yes, you really do think your audience is beyond stupid when they don't if you don't think they understand the acronym for EMT. All right, just some random guy. I see your chat here. As soon as I can hit the the pop up option on the feed here, you'll see it.
And so I've had these books sitting around for years, but I've never read them because I have no interest in doing that. I have no natural born interest in being a medical person. Now I have interest in exercise, so I do know some of the medical terms and some of the medical stuff. But as far as being able to do emergency medicine, I don't care. So I'd never be able to discipline myself with that, as well as I'd be able to discipline myself with something I do like. And what I am interested in is art, is communication, is.
So, in other words, you're not interested in stuff that will actually be useful in a post-collapse society. You just want to have your own interests and then hope that society maintains itself in such a state through the sacrifice of others in order for you to just pursue your interests, and other people will do the things you don't want to.
Do Red Sox counts for the cult meeting?
Yeah, it's basically St. Patty's Day rules. So long as you've got red somewhere on you, it's valid. So, like, for example, I am wearing red pants right now. Well, technically here I'm wearing black pants and the red's on the hat, but yeah, you get the idea, yes. Yes, red socks count. Yeah, so like, oh, I am interested in the arts. Yeah, so am I. But I recognize that the arts are not going to be a highly in demand skill when it comes to the fall of society, or heck, even just hard times. You want to know what jobs were necessary? Look at what happened with the recent pandemic. Look at all the jobs that got cut. Those were jobs that were not necessary. Look at all the jobs that were restricted or places that closed down. Those were jobs that weren't necessary. The jobs that were necessary, they didn't miss a day of work. They barely slowed down. And there were almost no restrictions placed upon them. Why? Because society would swiftly fall apart if those jobs were to disappear or even be delayed. Those are the skills that you should be learning. And yes, they're going to be unpleasant and you're not going to like them. But guess what? People don't get to do what they like during hard times. They do what needs to be done. So that's why you need to do everything that you can. And quite frankly, I don't think that you're doing enough to ensure the continued survival of yourself and this society that keeps you alive. Because you won't survive when it falls apart.
Speech, philosophy, language, history. So these are all the things.
History. History. You who doesn't seem to understand the reason why 1776 ended in America and not a crushed rebellion of a British colony. And you claim to have studied history. I know more about American history than you appear to, and yet you claim to have studied it. Where's my PhD, guys? Where's my PhD in history for knowing more than this student of it? Keep going. Keep going. Almost done.
Because I'm naturally interested in. These are my temperament, so these are things that if I was going to change, it would take years of work, so you might as well just deal with your genetic temperament.
Genetic temperament. You're blaming your genetics for not being able to commit to studying practical topics. I'm sorry, what isn't it you that just a couple of videos ago was going on about how fat people blame genetics for them being lazy, and here you are blaming your genetics for you being too lazy to study. Apparently exercise is something that you can't blame on your genetics. No. It's not about your genetics. It's you being lazy and using genetics as an excuse. Well, here you are using your genetics as an excuse for being lazy when it comes to studying practical topics. Holy shit. Just... 4 more minutes and then I'm grabbing a drink.
So things I would naturally like. And you'll work a lot harder, so you might have to take some time to figure out what that thing is. Maybe it's language, maybe it's engineering, maybe you're going to be the guy that creates the medical technology that creates the artificial womb. Maybe you're that person. Maybe you're like...
It's not going to be one person that makes that stuff. It's going to be a team of people using the research from many teams of people over the course of many years. The idea of the sole inventor, yeah, that'll work for some stuff. But something like the artificial womb, no. That's going to require a team of people and probably a library's worth of research.
Sandman, who's a photographer, who's going to try to create an artificial sex robot. Maybe you're that person. If that's what you enjoy, that's what you should be doing. But you're doing so to work towards the best possible end, as opposed to the negative side where it's like, we need to start killing people. We need to start harming women.
Oh, you mean like in the American Revolution, huh? So we need to be like the American Revolution, but, minus the bodies. Like the American Revolution minus the revolution. Like the American strongly worded letter. Seriously, you make it sound like all it took was a couple strongly worded letters and public demonstrations to make America. Wow. Again, studied history, has an interest and a passion for history.
We need to take the laws out, and we need to replace them with laws that are on the opposite side. That's what women have done with feminism. Oh, it's terrible that men are oppressive in nature and they're ruining women's lives. So we're going to flip it around and make it so women ruins men's lives. That's how you tell if someone is not motivated by good, someone who's not motivated by the positive end, or people in general who are not people who would actually improve themselves. If you want things to go correctly, if you want things to have a positive change, if you want America to be better than it was before, or Western society to be better than it was before, then you have to start with you. You have to stop being a loser. You have to stop being hateful and resentful, and you have to start working on yourself. And speaking of that, one of those better quotes is that you can either love women or understand them. And so if you're going to understand them, you don't hate them, because certainly female nature is there for a reason. Female nature, we are alive because women...
No, random Gen Z bastard. Yeah. Additional information about 1776. Also need the intervention of the French and Spanish in support and some active roles to support the independence movement. So, yeah, it's not just that a bunch of American businessmen got together, pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, and said no to the government and created a new nation. No. It was conflict with the support of international powers against an international empire.
Think of it this way. Women don't carry that much loyalty to the man they're sleeping with. Because if that was the case, we would not be around. If you have one population mass murder another population and take all their resources and take their women as well, it is not beneficial to our culture for women to say, I'm not having sex with you because I'm principled.
If your society has just been wiped out by a rival culture, you don't have a culture to preserve. This isn't about preserving culture when it comes to women submitting. It's about genetics. If the reason that women aren't loyal is because any women that were loyal had their bloodlines eradicated through these kinds of incidents. You don't preserve your culture by the women submitting to the strongest men in the tribe that wipes yours out.
It is more beneficial for them to say, okay, well, you're the leader, so I'll have sex with you, because that's how we survive. So we can't.
No, that's not how we survive. That's how they survive. That's how women survive and how they pass on their genes. That is not how we survive, because we are men and we are the ones who, in this analogy, are either the ones who have conquered, in which case we're not surviving. So if you're going to put us on the losing side, we're not surviving, we're dead. We're dead and our genes have been wiped out because the rival tribe slaughtered every man and decided to take every woman as a concubine that was worth taking. There is no survival for the men in that kind of situation when they are being conquered. Holy shit.
Hate female nature because we would not be here without it. But
Yeah, no. Guess. What do you mean we wouldn't be here without? You think humanity would go extinct if women weren't the way that they are? No. There'd probably be a lot less genetic diversity, but that would not mean the extinction of the human race. But what you're mixing up culture and genetics, and then saying that female disloyalty is essential for the survival of the species. No, you are wrong. You are straight up 100% wrong.
we can certainly understand it and we can certainly work within what's realistic. And that will help us create a more positive future. So, if you let me just repeat this again.
You have no idea what kind of future. You don't know what you want. You just want a positive one. But you want it to be positive for you. That's it. That is your metric. Is that if you feel good about the future, then it is good. That's all. And you want every other man to work to give a more positive outcome to your future. Because you don't want to do anything more than talk to videos on the internet and study or pretend to study these things that you're supposedly passionate about while leaving the actual difficult work to better men than you.
Don't be a loser. Just because you're not getting married or just because you're not dealing with women does not mean you get to sit by and do nothing. Well, You can sit by and do nothing if you don't want things to be better. But if you want things to be better, if you want to actually have a happy and peaceful life,
No. Guess what? Sitting back and not sacrificing for society, that does give a happy and peaceful life. It just doesn't give you a happy and peaceful life. Other men not keeping society going means that your life is going to start sucking earlier.
then you need to get out there and start making your life better. Just like the people who started America did.
They didn't just get out there and make their lives better. They died. A lot of them died. A lot of them died not for a better future for themselves, but for their children, for the wives that they cared about. They sacrificed for their families and the betterment of their legacy. And now you're telling men who don't have any of that that they need to do the same thing when they have nothing worth sacrificing for. It'll be a long meeting, guys. Hopefully he has somewhat slightly better takes, or at the very least more tolerable takes than the next one.
It would not have worked the same way. We would have been in the exact same fucking tyranny that we were in before if these people had been people who were losers. If these people had been people like the feminists are, people that have been people like the cultural appropriationists, the people who are like the guys who say everything is racist, even though that we are the least.
Those people don't have the power. These aren't people with power. They are the useful idiots for the people with power. They are the human shield, and as soon as they are no longer necessary, they will be liquidated by the very people that protect them nowadays. You seem to have absolutely no understanding of the current situation if you think that the feminists and the culture appropriation people are the ones with power.
Even though that Western society is the least racist culture ever known to man. So that's kind of my opinion on that. Get over yourself, get stuff done, don't be a loser.
Look in the fucking mirror. This is not someone that you need to tell your audience. Look at yourself. Like, listen to yourself. Heck. I mean, honestly, I tag you in each one of these videos. You have to know that these streams exist. You have to know that these segments exist. Now, it's interesting. During the St. Patty's stream last night, apparently Sean was streaming. And some of the chat was asking if they should raid and what should they say. Now, it's not my place to say on Chronic Stream. But personally, and I don't think there's any point in telling him that this is happening, but perhaps other members of his audience who might not know about this kind of stuff, who might not know about his early content, who probably just listen to his stuff without thinking, maybe they should know that these streams exist and that these segments exist. Almost done here.
And then they won't be able to attack us. We'll be so powerful. We'll be so powerful. We'll be so good. We'll be.
P and 11 said they don't want USA women only land.
ENG said they don't want USA women. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, guess what? Should America fall to China, there isn't going to be any survival no matter how disloyal the women are. The women have ruined themselves because they're trying to be men. So when the barbarians are at the gate, there aren't going to be war brides. There's just going to be twice as many corpses.
they'll have such an inability to make fun of us because we're not just a bunch. We won't just be a bunch of incel losers who do nothing. We'll be the rich guys. We'll be the people who are fashionable. We'll be the people who have nice cars. We'll be the people who have really fantastic.
Really, how's that working out for Andrew Tate? You're saying build up success and then you won't be criticized. Oh yeah, yeah. Good luck publicly being MGTOW or red pilled. Good luck doing that publicly and actually being able to go, yeah, I'm very publicly successful. Oh, they won't be able to make fun of you? Oh, really? Because they're not making fun of or shaming Leonardo DiCaprio. Because nothing bad is happening to Henry Cavill. Nothing bad happens to rich and powerful and famous and successful men. They're not attacked at all for their beliefs. No? Really? Holy. Just the sheer bloody stupidity of this video. 20 seconds. Come on. Wrap this up.
Jobs and people who are entrepreneurs, people who are philanthropists. This is what this world needs right now.
Philanthropists. The world needs more philanthropists. The world needs more rich people who have so much money that they can just give it away. Yes, that's what the world needs more of. Because the reason for the West collapsing is because men aren't working hard enough to earn enough money to just give it away to causes that they feel. Jeez. Delusional. It's hard. I'll admit, this is actually getting to the point where it's difficult to criticize because it's like talking to someone who has no understanding of reality. It's like trying to talk about how to develop a space program with a flat earther.
So if you like this video, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. Also, you can share it. That would be super helpful. I forgot to say that. Certainly, if you like the video, please share it. Comment on the video if you have anything else to add, and I will see you in the next one.
Yeah, except you deleted this video, so there is no comment, and sharing, it would be very difficult to even watch this video at all. So, you know what? You're welcome. I have now shared your video in depth because you decided that this no longer was something you wanted to put out. But quite frankly, given your current content, I think that this video is very much on brand. You should re-upload this one. I don't think that this is against your message at all. Not your current one anyway. Unless you've, well, dove even that much further into the feminism, which, if I even bothered to watch your current live streams, maybe you have. Ah! I'm getting a drink, guy. I'm putting on some music, guys, while I get a drink. I'm gonna need it. Here, let's get the intermission music up. Load it up, load it up. Hide this. Here. Yeah, here, enjoy just a random collection of some intermission, apparently Dragonborn fantasy music. Enjoy, guys. I'll be back. Ugh. Ah! One bloody hour for that 15-minute video. Ugh. Hey, Steve Sanchez. This was generated by the program Ava. So, technically, I own all these tracks because I bought the rights to them. But, yeah, no, I just produced a whole bunch for some intermission music. So, yeah, it was composition 212. I don't have proper names for these because, as far as I'm concerned, they're just some mass-produced generic stuff. If I'm going to actually release a proper song, I'm going to spend some time really working on it. Sorry if I pause for stuff like that, but ale makes me feel like I want to burp like Venti, but hey, I'm classier than an E-Thought. Yeah, this foul-mouthed freaking purple ghost who curses like a sailor half the time still has more class than Brittany Venti. Yeah, just downed half that ale in one shot. Okay, so all right. Literally over an hour for that one video. If we're going to make the 3-hour time limit here, we are going to have to try to get these fast. Thankfully, this one's only 12 minutes, so I'll try not to pause it quite as much, just so that we can get through this in decent time. But for the segment, this is archived video number 19, Red Pill Fuel.
I was talking to one of my Japanese friends today, and he's kind of into this girl named Marie Kondo, who is a famous Japanese writer for writing a book about how to be clean. Basically, she kind of throws a Japanese take on Jordan Peterson, though the idea is originally hers, of clean your room. And if you clean your room, you can get the rest of your, if you can get that right, you may just be able to get the rest of your life in order. And so he was talking about this show, and I said, hey, we're talking about this person. It's like, hey, there's a show.
Yes, the New York Times and Netflix. These are the peak, the absolute pinnacle of good media. Yeah. All right, let's just keep going.
Show on Netflix. So I said, why don't I go ahead and watch this show to see, because I love those shows like Hoarders. I love the shows like Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, and I can't stop watching things like that because a lot of these things show the human condition. Now, some of reality TV is a little fake. Fortunately, most people are not good enough actors to fool someone who's been looking at how people work for a while. So if you've...
And you consider yourself a good enough judge of character to not be fooled by acting. Is that why you watch reality TV? So that you can feel superior to other people? Because I'll admit, that's the vibe I get from people who watch reality TV. They go and they watch other people whose lives are absolute disasters so that they can feel better about their own absolute screw-ups of lives. Anyway, come on, keep going.
Learn how people work. You can tell when people are being fake and not really acting correctly. And I think in this particular episode, I think these people were so bad at acting that pretty much anybody could tell that they weren't genuine in their performance on how they were presenting themselves in their relationship. And certainly if you want a good bunch of red pill fuel or a bunch of MGTOW fuel, this would be the perfect show to watch, at least for the very first episode. And then I've watched up to the third episode or so, and the second and third.
I'm pretty sure that there isn't anything in that video, which is show episode, which is anywhere from it's anywhere from a half hour to an hour, because that's just how Netflix works. I'm pretty sure that there is nothing in that video that is not more succinctly put on YouTube, saving you 50 to 75% of the time. Whatever the content is, I'm sure that there is a better version on YouTube that takes half the time to tell.
Episode aren't as bad, but the first episode...
Oh. Apparently, Marie Kondo is married and, according to Wikipedia, moved to California in 2022. Thank you, Matria. Did not know that, because honestly, prior to this video, I don't think I'd ever heard of Marie Kondo before. But that makes a lot of sense.
So, whereas the second and third episode, they could survive. These are basically all married couples as far as I've seen. And the 2 and 3, they could survive, but episode 1 is basically a lost cause. Well, it's kind of like this. I was thinking about an episode of Joe Rogan I was listening to, and it had this fighter pilot on where he's talking about being a student of Top Gun and an instructor at Top Gun. And one of the things you get when you're an instructor is you get so good at flying, and think about it this way. The jets are expensive. You don't really get that much experience. So the time that you do have, especially if you're in that high-level place like Top Gun, you're going to have people who are kind of good versus people who are phenomenal because they're flying these expensive things all the time. And so you can get so good that, and apparently being a fighter pilot works kind of slow, you can get so good that you can watch a student make a mistake, and then 10 moves later, you'll see the results of their mistake that they made a long time ago. And so that's what this episode was like. It was like this guy made a real mistake and dating this chick and marrying with this chick. And there's some signs you can see, she's got a lot of tattoos, and tattoo girls are not for marriage.
Yes, because you need to be an expert in human psychology and body language reading to tell that a man getting married to a woman with tattoos was a mistake. Now, that makes you the equivalent of a fighter pilot instructor when it comes to human relationships. I mean, I don't really know what a. Let's see, how do I put this? How about you lighten up on stroking yourself this much? Because I'm pretty sure you're going to tear your ego off at this rate.
Tattooed girls are for fun. They're not for getting married. Neither are chicks with like a lot of weird piercings, like nipple piercings or nose rings and tongue piercings and stuff like that. Stay away from those chicks if you actually want to create a home. Well, that may not be for this channel because this is a red pill channel, but certainly that.
What do you mean that may not be for this channel? It's whatever. Should stick to criticizing the stuff that I can actually understand. Stuff like that, it's like, what the heck are you even talking about? What is even your definition of a red pill channel? What are you even doing here?
Would be a sign for me to say that this chick, she might be fun, she might be happy, she might be very manipulative, and so she can pretend to be a good person, but the tattoos are a sign of that she can't delay gratification. If she can't delay gratification, how is she going to make it 20 years or 18 years with kids? Actually, probably 20 years.
What the heck does tattoos have to do with delayed gratification? Like, okay, guys, real. Me, I don't have any tattoos. That's not because of delayed gratification or any sort of self-control kind of stuff. It is purely because I have never found an image that I thought was good enough to be worth putting on my body. Now, I'm a dude. Maybe it's different with women. Maybe there's kind of an impulse thing, but I just sort of say, like, look, I haven't found an image that I'd put on my skin. I found plenty of images that I'd purchase and put on my wall or like frame. Sure, I got tons of those. None that I would put on my skin. I don't get it. Maybe Chronic could be better suited to speak to tattoo motivation, but that's where I stand on it. If other people have, then great, but it was never a delayed gratification thing. It was just like, it's not good enough. There's no image good enough that I found.
25 years or so, because, if you have more than one, it's going to be more than 18 years. And so in this particular episode, it was set up like it's both people or both parties need to be fixed. And technically that's true. Because if you're in a failing relationship, it's not just you, it's not just the person on the other side, it's also you as well. Because, you think they're the loser, but you're the loser who's with the loser. So,
and you're the loser who's watching the loser with the loser. Because apparently you have nothing better to do with your time than watch reality TV. Like, it's one thing. That's the thing. I used to think, like, oh, he watches reality television to get this red pill stuff to present. It's kind of research. But not now I'm starting to think that this was just his basic entertainment. He wanted to watch people who sucked. Armchair analysis is, well, low self-esteem. He's clearly got issues. You don't look this much into human psychology and child psychology unless you've got some issues that you need taken care of. Yeah, hot take right there. And yes, I'm aware of the irony. I'm not going to say I don't have issues, but at the very least, I'm not making that shit my career. Anyway, but honestly, the picture really is worth 1,000 words here. Why is she biting her lip? The more I look at this image, the more I want to pick it apart, but quite frankly, we got to get through this video fast, so... God knows how bad the take in the next video is going to be, so I want to have over an hour of time, as we got Manic streaming at 7, so but let's just keep going here.
So if you have one person who has all these problems, chances are you've got problems yourself. And so in this case, it was primarily the chick. The decision making was lost before he got married because this chick did not know how to do any home skills. Now they didn't go over cooking because cooking wasn't the main part of the show, but I imagine it probably fits the bill because this chick was someone who did not work, but she had none of the skills that you'd expect of a housewife. While on the opposite side, the man did have all the skills you'd expect of a husband, which is kind of the feminist doctrine. We want to whine, complain, and bitch so that men have to do everything they're supposed to be doing, but we
She's checking me out. I mean, given the composition of this, yeah, it does look like that. You versus the guy she tells you not to worry about. Oh, that's a good one. Thanks. Oh, let's keep going.
don't want to do the things that we're supposed to be doing. We want things like we want.
Here. You know what? I'll make it a little more. Make it a little more appropriate here. So what's she looking at? Probably this. Until the image is gone, I'm keeping the shirt off, guys. She ain't looking for ghost. She ain't looking at ghost ass. She's looking at ghost abs.
Laundry machines. We want dishwashers. We want pre-made meals. So all the things that we traditionally had done are all super easy, while the man still has to do his job. And so they were in a traditional home where he went to work and she was the queen of the home. Now she had like a little menial job where she probably worked like an hour a day or something like that. So just
there, the images have gone. Oh boy. Oh boy. Where the heck was that?
It's gonna be more just how because was it? You know, while the home had like imagine this worked like an hour a day or something like that. So just to say that.
Yeah, I definitely got to change out. I thought doing the alt stuff was bad enough, but now apparently doing this particular key combination is just as bad. So I got to figure out like better hotkeys to activate stuff on the VTuber model. Let's keep going. Sorry about that, guys.
She worked so she could complain, but for the most part, she was a housewife. And so think of it this way. Imagine this prison that you're in. And it was hard to watch this episode because I know the end result of this. This guy's going to get divorced in a couple of years. I mean, they were arguing pretty seriously on camera. Imagine how much they're arguing off of camera.
You know, I wonder if Sean of the past looked at the footage of Sean of the present, how would he judge himself? Like, assuming that he didn't know it was himself. I remember I got a while back. I don't know how many of you guys ever watched like Nostalgia Critic and whatnot, but there was one DVD he released where he basically criticized his own movies. The premise was he got so wasted he didn't realize that his movies were his. And so he roasted them because, well, whatever. I enjoyed the movies at the time, but yeah, they're not definitely not above criticism. But I wonder if Think Before You Sleep of the past would roast Think Before You Sleep of the present. And you know, maybe if you took his stuff and put it into reality TV format, he would. You know? Live long enough to be the hero. Sorry, die a hero. Or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Let's just keep going. We got it. We're almost halfway through, thankfully.
People aren't watching. But he was a sales manager. He was someone who did sales and someone who managed people. And by the way, someone who's ran around that and someone who's done sales, sales is a hard job. If you've done that and you survived for any period of time, you know how stressful sales is. Because basically what you're doing is oftentimes you're taking a really subpar product, and hopefully you have a good product because that makes it easier to sell. But you're taking a subpar product and convincing somebody who doesn't give a shit why this product is the best possible product they can possibly take.
Are we really surprised that he's taken sales and that and that he's marketing his videos in that way. Because let's be honest, the most value that I've gotten out of his videos in this archive is that it's entertaining you guys to have this stuff torn apart. So, yeah, subpar product. Basically, the way he describes sales, it's polishing turds. Like you're covering turds in gold leaf and trying to sell them as gold nuggets. That's, I'm pretty sure that we'd call that manosphere grifting in a nutshell. Anyway, let's keep going.
And that's not very fun because most people, like not most people, like 95% of people are going to say, no, fuck off. And you've got to push through that. And then if you manage people, it's like, well, there's a lot of good people. There's a lot of really terrible people. You have to fire people who aren't doing work, which means you have to make bad decisions because, you know, certainly these people's livelihood depends on this job. So
you have to make bad decisions. No. You make the correct decision. Firing people who, in the long term, will damage your income, that is a correct decision to make for you. Do you seriously think that hurting people's feelings is a bad decision? It's hardly the worst thing about this, but come on, just halfway through.
you really have to be, it's just so much stress in that job. He was doing that 60 hours per week. So imagine this, you go through this really, really tough job and you come home, there's no food, everything's dirty, the kids' homework isn't done, and everything's out of order. All the things that you did all your work, you did what you're supposed to do, but as soon as you get home, your wife has done nothing. Your wife has left you a giant mess to go fix for yourself. So now that you've worked your 60-hour job, you have to come home and then do everything else, like all the cleaning, all the food, all the child care that she's supposed to be doing, which is why she's at home in the first place.
She's got her nails done, though. There's one thing she was able to do. She was able to do her nails. Also, what the heck's with the guy's second ring? Like he's got the one ring on his marriage finger, so you know he's got his he's got his mini slave collar on. What the heck's with like basically an identical ring on the opposite finger? Well, the opposite middle finger, and then like she's got a ring on her right ring finger. I know, weird detail to get hung up on, but that just seems weird to me. Probably irrelevant, but we'll keep going.
And then only that, she makes a bunch of excuses of why she can't do it. Oh, this is too hard. How am I supposed to clean and take care of kids at the same time? How am I supposed to do laundry at the same time? So, oh, here's the big thing. My God, laundry. As someone who's been doing laundry his entire life, laundry is fucking easy. The machine does everything for you. You take your clothes, you put them in a big pile. Maybe you sort them by color and by special washing instructions, but for the most part, that takes about 5 seconds. Like if it takes you more than 2 minutes to do this, that's ridiculous.
I'll be honest, guys, there was a point in my life where I actually washed clothes in the sink just because I didn't have access to a washer. It's still not that hard. We still have modern detergent. We have stuff to work with in order to make this easier. Like a washing machine, yeah, makes it incredibly simple. But it does not take all bloody day to wash clothes, even if you were washing them in the sink or the bathtub, or God forbid, just a bucket of water. Heck, you could get a freaking tote container, freaking fill it up with the kitchen sink, and that would still, you could still do it. So, whatever. At the very least, Sean and I both agree that this woman is beyond useless as a housewife. Like, let's be honest. At this point, the only benefit that she brought the man was providing the eggs and the womb for the kid. If there was an artificial womb, she could be replaced with that, and it would be a net gain for the guy.
You throw them in the washer, push a couple buttons, and then fold them later, which is not that hard. But she mentioned that she gets anxiety around doing cleaning, anxiety around doing laundry, so much so that she had to hire someone to do her laundry for her. So it's like, no.
Nah, she didn't hire somebody. She doesn't have an income. She doesn't work. She got her husband who works to pay for it. She got the husband to hire a housekeeper to do the work that his wife does not. She did not hire anybody unless she is somehow generating an income in order to make money.
Only are you a failure as a wife, not only are you a failure as someone who's supposed to be in charge of cleaning, but now you're taking my money to make up for your inadequacies as a wife.
Yeah, so why'd you say that she hired the person? No, he hired her. He's the one paying. You are not the one who hires somebody if you're not the one that pays for the service.
Oh my God, it was really hard to watch, and so I'm just gonna leave it at that. The show's it's on Netflix. It's called Tidying Up with Marie Kondo. Highly recommended. The first episode, it was a fantastic reason. Fantastic red pill fuel, because certainly if you're going to make it long enough, because I know a lot of us want to get married. A lot of us want to have kids. A lot of us want to have that house and that life that we were promised when we were younger. But unfortunately, this is not the environment for that. So we need constant reminders of why this is not the environment for that. And so,
No, I don't need constant reminders. And apparently you must have slipped on your constant reminders, considering that you're currently jumping on board with Brittany Venti as your girlfriend. And if she's actually being honest, you're not even going to get any until you put a ring on that finger. So, yeah, Sean of the past criticizing Sean of the future. It's easy to see why he deleted this video. Jeez. But that's the thing. Is like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I do not need a constant reminder every single day on why to not get married. It's kind of funny to see the kind of stuff going, especially since that kind of messaging is not particularly prominent in most other sources. But I don't need constant reinforcement to resist the marriage trap. Sorry, guys, maybe I'm not Giga Chad enough, but I don't exactly have women freaking getting on their knees throughout the day, throughout the week, trying to get me married. And I need trying to get married to me. I need to constantly put up resistance, like, no, I cannot be married. I know too much. It's like, no. Like, eventually, you get it. You get it. You understand it. You come up with a proper plan. It's like, hey, maybe this is just me. Maybe this is just me. But it's like, I need a shit ton of cash. I need to have a stable career. And I need to be able to live in a country with much better laws than Canada. And if I don't fit any of those requirements, then it is just straight up not on the table. Like, I don't see why I'd need a constant supply of red pills to just have that logical understanding of the situation. And apparently, whatever Sean's daily dosage was, sometime around 2022, 2023, it wasn't high enough.
the first episode of this show is a fairly good reminder of how wrong things can go and how.
Wait, sorry. Sorry. This is too good not to read. So, just some random guy. I went to the bank this week and the old man was saying he had to find the police. And I asked, you mean your wife? And he said yes. Funny shit. You know what? Yeah. There are some pretty based older men. But they're usually really old. It seems to be that guys 60 and older, they seem to be They seem to get it. Guys under 60, like I'm shocked at the amount of simps that I meet in their 40s and 50s. I'm so glad that this model has the capability of being able to shake its head back and forth. I just, like, seriously, kudos to Locus for just adding this much. It adds a lot more expressiveness to these silent moments. But 3 minutes to go. Let's wrap this up.
Well, what it looks like for a man who's made the wrong decision. He picked a chick who is allergic to working, and picked a chick who is, and a lot of these reality shows, like I love that show, Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. No,
How many reality shows do you watch? Like, seriously, you complain that you don't have enough time or willpower to study freaking science or engineering or medicine, but you have enough time to watch hours of reality television. Jeez. Like, whatever, just keep going.
not only do I like the actual show content, but because the show has been over for a few years, you can go and look up online how all these restaurants have done in after the interventions. And spoilers, most of them have failed. Some of them have failed because the
Spoilers for something that wasn't on the show. Whatever.
owners were too stubborn. Like he was like, okay, here's the changes you have to make. So do this, 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 and this, and your restaurant will be successful. And not only did he say it, but he did it, and the shit works. Everything's organized. People get their orders out fast enough. The food tastes great.
No, exactly. What exactly? Super Turbo Death Shark. Wait, wasn't this the same guy who talked about men wanting to sit around, play video games, and choke the chicken? So apparently, so long as you're sitting around watching reality television, you're like studying human psychology and philosophy and history. But if you're playing video games, then no. Like gamers' most oppressed rate. Like most oppressed demographic is gamers. Am I right, guys? Maybe that's more Chaz's and Manic's audience, but that's the thing. Like, playing video games is apparently more of a waste of time than watching reality television.
Great and all, everything's wonderful. And then as soon as he leaves, everything's changed back to the way it was before they were successful. It's like, okay, you got this guy who is rich, he's got several successful restaurants, he knows what he's doing, and you, who has nothing successful, is going to supersede him. And so you have people that are like that go back to the way they were. You have people who just can't handle the pressure of a restaurant, just can't handle the pressure of how things are, and they end up failing anyway. They get back into their old ways.
Why are we still talking about this soy boy? Quite frankly, because I get higher viewers on streams where I dissect this guy's past than I do with any of my other content. So far as I'm concerned, until chat gets tired of this, I'm going to keep doing it. That's why I keep doing it.
And so you look at these, and most of them have failed. And you'll look at people, and they have that person says, "Oh, I'm going to make the change. I'm going to make the change." And a month later, they're back the way they were. And so I think this is very much so the way this show is going to be, because the wife was not a very good actress. I'm not sure how she got him. He seems to be a much higher number than she is. Like, she's not very attractive. She's maybe like a 5. I mean, at least she's thin, but she has like a cold sore and a bunch of moles and tattoos all over herself. And so it's like, she's not very attractive.
I'll be honest, when it comes to ranking females, I eliminate 3, 5, and 7. Like, I would no longer ever call a woman a 3, a 5, or a 7. Because, so far as I'm concerned, those are non-committal numbers. 7 is just saying, oh yeah, you're above average, but you're not super hot. It's wishy-washy. 5 is saying pure middle of the road. And it essentially is meaningless. And 3 is just saying, like, well, you're ugly, but you're not that ugly. He's like, no. If you're going to say 3, you got to commit. Are they a 4 or a 2? If you're going to say 5, you got to commit. Are they a 4 or a 6? And if you're going to say 7, you got to commit. Are they an 8 or a 6? You got to at least commit to what you're saying the person is, because 3, 5, and 7, so far as I'm concerned, are basically meaningless. They're two middle of the road numbers, but that's a side tangent. At the very least, he's wrapping it up, even though we've still got almost 2 minutes left.
And her acting, her ability to manipulate, her acting is not that great, because you can tell when she's saying, "Oh, hello, I'm so glad to see you," that she's not being very genuine when she says it.
But you can tell that Brittany Venti is totally being honest with whatever affection I assume she pretends to have for you. Again, this guy is apparently seriously, Sean. You gotta answer me this, and I suppose in my comment section, since if you answer this in a live stream, unless someone in my chat tells me about it, I'm not gonna see it. But do you get your understanding of human psychology primarily by watching reality television? I'm curious. I guess I'd add that to the list of hypotheticals, but I know that like you'll shout out Undead Chronic and Hammerhand, but I know that you're not going to mention my ass because I'm nowhere near their sub counts or popularity. But I think that I'd definitely be able to tear you a new asshole for Brittany to peg you in. Let's continue. Wrap this up.
I don't know. The way I got this episode is that they said, "Well, we're so happy we made all these changes. Everything's working so well." And that's probably true. But they didn't say it in a way like, "We've seen the light. We've seen the errors or ways. We were going to make this change and make things tighter." At least for her, because the problem was mostly with her. The problem, he's already made his big mistake. The only thing he can do is nag her to be good, because he's already married to her. He made his mistake years ago. And so the one who has to change will be her. And in this case, she didn't seem like she was going to get on board with cleaning. She didn't seem like she's going to get on board with doing her duty as a wife, which is to take care of the home while he makes the money. And well, I guess I'll leave it at that. That's just some thoughts I have about MGTOW fuel. Some thoughts I have about red pill fuel. If you're getting a little bit if you're losing, if you're starting to blue pill yourself a little bit, then go ahead and watch that first episode of that show and watch this train wreck of a marriage that's going to fail within a couple.
I think the easiest way to not quote unquote blue pill yourself is just to not watch modern television in a nutshell. Just don't watch television. It's easy to not have a Netflix subscription or a cable subscription. It's easy to not go out and see a movie. Heck, like I literally found 3 movies for $5 in the grocery store bargain bin today. And I'm like, I think I've heard of this kind of stuff before. It looks kind of neat. Like three full-length movies for $5. Probably never would watch them otherwise. Like, and you got people here paying what, $15 a month for a Netflix subscription? So that they can have more woke garbage filtered right into their brains. If you got an internet connection to know your way around the internet, you don't really need to have any sort of blue pill stuff shoved into your brain. There's plenty of stuff on the internet for free. Wrap this up. 20 seconds to go.
Couple of years. I bet you if they do a follow-up in a few years, or 5 years from now, they won't be married anymore. And again, that show is tied.
Wait, real talk? You super chatted me $5, like, oh, and then it didn't go through. Well, double check whatever payment processor and like get a charge back, reclaim that money. Like, again, I prefer it go through StreamYards if it's more than $1 or $2, just on principle, but get a charge back for that. Like, say it didn't go through and that you want your money back for it because YouTube screwed you. That ain't right. No, exactly. Free old movies on YouTube. Heck, like there's an archive of like old black and white movies. There's a ton of untouched good cinema just out there for free to watch, to download completely legally. Like much like gaming nowadays, you don't need to spend money. You can have an amazing cinematography experience, an amazing gaming experience, an amazing book experience legally for free in the modern day, where all you need to pay is for your internet bill. Like, that's it. And heck, if you want to be even cheaper than that, just go to like a Starbucks. Sorry, guys. Go to a Starbucks or McDonald's and buy something cheap off the menu and use their Wi-Fi. Like, entertainment these days can be very cheap so long as you have a functioning computer that can connect to the internet. Don't need these cable subscriptions. Like, the only reason people bother with cable subscriptions is because they want to talk with other people about current television shows that other people are paying subscriptions for. But if you don't care about that kind of social connection with people that you interact with, there's a wealth of good stories, good cinema, all out there legally for free. So why you'd need to spend hours of your life and I'm going to say dozens of dollars watching reality television to get your red pills? No. Just doesn't make sense to me.
Up with Marie Kondo on Netflix. So if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button, the like button as well. Comment down below if you have anything to comment about the episode. It's a fairly good one. And I will see you in the next one.
Except he won't because he'll be. Let's see. Yeah. So, yeah, but he, once again, you can't because he's deleted them. He's deleted these videos. So, if you want to make comments on his videos, you're going to have to either comment on this live stream or once I chop it out into the segment, which, yeah, I'm behind on that, guys. I'll make sure to get on that so that people don't have to comb through the whole live stream to get to each one of these segments. Let's see. Real talk. Just went through the StreamYards, going to the bank. Jeez, I don't know what to do about that, real talk, honestly. Like, see if you can get like a chargeback or something for that. Like, because it should show up here. Maybe like, it might be something with the setup on my end. I'm not sure. I'll look into it after the stream's done. Let's see, how long did that one take? Okay, we got about an hour left. So I'm going to put on another round of intermission music real quick. I'm going to go grab a fresh drink for the next one. So enjoy the soothing sounds of composition number 216 while I get another drink. And then we'll tackle our last video of the meeting. Okay, sorry guys. That, like, I can hear just the continuous high-pitched screech now. Sorry, composition 216. I'm marking that one as a failure. We'll just go with composition 214.
If it hasn't been said, Aerodynamic can vouch for real _ talk during Frost's stream as this being my original saying. We must refer to this weenie as think before you twink. The algorithm allowed it to go through for payment but then blocked it. Damn cunts.
Damn. Well, thanks Real Talk for getting it through, but yeah, we have some... Yeah, again, this is the other thing with... definitely say go through StreamYards. I do have some restrictions there, primarily to keep people from just dropping a bunch of slurs, just in case the basic censorship there will allow for something demonetizable or bannable to be said. But hey, that apparently made it through StreamYards, so I guess that's that can be said no problem. Let's get back in here. I should probably make some kind of animation for appearing and disappearing in a puff of smoke, because otherwise I could just kind of slide back and forth across the screen. Which I don't know. Maybe I should leave the screen like this way. I must go now. My planet needs me. The composition's okay, but I don't like the instrument selection. They hit too many high notes. I probably should have listened to these beforehand to see, but hey, it's a surprise to all of us what any of these things sound like. Yeah, Moon. Like, I'll admit, I'm in the former sub club myself, unfortunately. But hey, at least it's nice to know that the people who he's turned his back on can find at least some entertainment here. I mean, heck, he got to what? Like 50K subs or whatever on his old school content before he started selling out. If I got even 1/10 of that to sub to this channel, heck, that would more than triple my current amount. So if I can be freaking port in a storm for this, then hey, I'm glad. But at the very least, I hope that this is entertaining for those of you who, well, have to deal.
So I'm going to take this up.
All right, so final one of the night. This 18 minutes, so I keep saying this, but we are going to have to try to get through this one quickly. Yeah, Manic's going to be on in a little under an hour, so we'll try to wrap this up for the 3-hour mark, and then send you all over the Manic's channel for his big Sonic stream. All right. Got a fresh beer, crack all the joints in the neck, and for no reason, can a ghost get drunk? We are going to find out, one way or another. But let us begin. Archived episode 20 of Think Before You Sleep. Get the basics right.
So I'm going to take this episode to talk about physical health, because in my opinion, there is no such thing as mental health without physical health. And of course, the opposite's true. There's no such thing as physical health without mental health. And so if you don't get both right at the same time, you can't actually be a healthy person. You can have all the positive philosophy in the world, but if you're 300 pounds overweight, there's still some type of problem you're having.
Yeah, newsflash to anyone who didn't realize, the brain is a physical organ that is connected to the rest of the body. Your psychology is not separate from your physical condition, as your body is one massive interlocked system with a whole bunch of positive and negative feedback mechanisms. So, guess what? Your physical health can affect your psychological health, and often it does. But quite frankly, I knew that. I mean, I've heard similar stuff from freaking anime directed at teenagers, so it doesn't take a genius to realize that you need a strong mind and a strong body. It's not enough to have just one or the other. Physicians don't. The brain can't escape the body. Well, that is true, but I'm pretty sure that there is research underway right now to see if that is possible. Brain in the jar has been a fantasy for a long, long time. Quite frankly, I don't think that even if you could make a brain technically survive outside of the body, it would probably just go insane and self terminate. I don't know offhand exactly how much of the brain is just dedicated to keeping the body functioning, but I'm willing to bet that a brain in a jar would basically be mostly useless. The brain is not just an organ for thinking. It's also, the massive control center for every part of your body. So, but that's a whole medical side tangent, and we're trying to do this in a reasonable time frame.
Because, being 300 pounds overweight is a sign of addiction. Because it's unhealthy to be that overweight. And if you can't stop eating, well, there you go. Now, the topic I want to talk about today is relation to weight loss. Weight loss is one of our basics in terms of eating healthy. I'm never concerned with what's the healthiest possible diet.
I mean, maybe it's a problem for people who have nothing better in their lives to do than just eat. My shit, it's the exact opposite. I gotta bulk more. Like, I guess I see some guys who are like, hey, I put away only 15 sandwiches today, and I'm like, how the heck did you have the time or stomach capacity to put away that many sandwiches? I don't get it, guys. I guess it's one of those things that I just don't understand, because, I mean, that you might be able to blame on biology. Got a metabolism like a hummingbird and an appetite that, quite frankly, needs to want to eat more. But I'm also busy as hell. Like, that's the other thing. I think that I don't know if I've ever met a person who was both obese and extremely busy. Like, it takes time to eat that many calories. Although, I guess maybe like if you're primarily eating fast food, but in that case, you got to be making a lot of money. Just as a guy who's never been fat, it's just a curiosity to me as like how somebody gets fat. Personally, don't get it, but whole different topic. Well, let's just keep going here. We got 18 minutes to get through.
Certainly, there are tons of arguments about that, or vegan's healthier, or paleo is healthier, or carnivore is healthier, gluten-free is healthier, or whatever, a raw vegan is healthier. I don't give a shit about that, because most people aren't even getting the basics right. So who cares about what exactly the healthiest food? Like, should you eat oranges on Wednesday, or should you eat the Ayurvedic diet where you're only eating seasonally or whatever? That stuff is all way too complex for the average person. What we need to do first is at least get the basics right. And one of those basics is weight loss. Now, if you...
Yeah, in Canada, we had the government put out the food pyramid back in the 90s, which basically said that, yeah, you should eat like 3 to 4 like servings-ish of meat a day versus 6 to 12 grains. And then, surprise, surprise, we find out decades later, oh, hey, bread makes you fat. That's the thing. It's hard enough to give people proper nutritional advice en masse when they're literally being indoctrinated into unhealthy habits. And then I think one of the biggest scams with Coca-Cola and vitamin water, because they basically said, look, if people are stupid enough to think vitamin water is good for you, then they shouldn't be able to sue us for lying to them because they were stupid enough to believe that sugar water makes you healthy.
Look at magazines, if you look at media, if you look at news, at least from my perspective, they almost always get this stuff wrong.
And for us, exactly, like caloric surplus is what makes you fat. What you eat, that's related to, you might have certain deficiencies. Like if you don't eat any meat, that's going to be a problem in some areas. If you go pure carnivore, that's probably going to have issues in other areas. You're going to need like fruits and veggies for other things. So like, you do need a somewhat varied diet, but yeah, it's primarily caloric intake. When it comes to, hey, why do we get fat? It's like, well, that's because your body is storing more energy than you're putting out. Because if you're not burning a certain number of calories per day, the excess calories are going to go to one of two places. Either it's going to end up in the toilet, or it's going to end up as fat storage in your body. It's fairly simple to understand, I would think. But that's the thing, is like does eating but primarily when people get fat, it is like a caloric problem. They either have very sedentary lives where they don't move around very much, don't burn very many calories, or they are just eating an obscenely huge amount of food. Like people who eat 4 times as much than I do on a day when I'd consider myself bulking. Like if you are eating 5 digits worth of calories per day, yeah, you're going to be fat. Because good luck trying to burn 5 digits worth of calories in a single day. But like if you're burning, but like saying you're putting away like 3,000 calories a day, but you're only burning 1,000 because like you sit at a desk all day and you drive everywhere and you order food to your house or other things to your house rather than going out and walking around and shopping. Yeah, that would be another way. Like 2 people who eat 3,000 calories, they're going to get different results based on their lifestyle. But someone who burns 10,000 calories, like, unless you're going, even if you're going to be a sumo wrestler, I wouldn't necessarily say that you're healthy. Like sumo wrestlers, like, be impressive and they might be fit, and I'll give them credit where credit is due on that. But to maintain that kind of mass, the human body is not built to be that fat. I don't care how much muscle is underneath. Your bones can't handle that. Your heart's not meant to beat against that. You can't strength train your heart. And honestly, you probably don't want to. I mean, yeah, you can do your cardio and whatnot, but I'll be honest, I'm actually not super familiar on how much cardio is linked to either your heart or your lungs, but you can't strength train your heart. At best, you can tone it. Because chances are if you strength trained it and made it swell, that would cause other issues for you. So, but, not a medical expert. Let's keep going. I'm rambling.
And for whatever reason, like it could be,
watch my 600-pound life. Okay, how about no? The amount of food people eat is crazy. Yes, I'd believe it. But I don't need to watch an episode of 600-Pound Life. I'm pretty sure that there is a 2 to 5 minute clip out there on YouTube that summarizes exactly how much these people eat already. Like if someone is putting away multiple cakes in a single day, then yeah, that's a problem with eating.
Like I read an article at Shape magazine about how to get rid of back pain, and like 7 exercises to get rid of back pain. And none of the exercises had anything to do with back pain. And the reason for that is because what they were trying to do is that the model that they used for the exercises was wearing specific gear from like Adidas or Lululemon or something like that. And before the article on how to prevent back pain, They had about maybe 5 pages or so of her doing a photo shoot in the gear that she was wearing, of course. And they would said, oh, you can get this at Macy's. You can get this on Amazon.com. This is what she's wearing. Here's how to find it. So the ad wasn't really about how to stop back pain. The ad was about selling clothes. And now it's fine to sell stuff, but certainly if you're going to sell shit, at least get the information right. And I don't think that was really the correct way to go about that. And
No, because the whole idea was to say, hey, if you buy these clothes, then you'll get thin. It's the pretty woman selling a car scenario. Guy walks up, subconsciously thinks, hey, if I buy this car, then I'll get that pretty woman. Therefore, he buys the car, trying to get a pretty woman. These people are like, oh, hey, if I buy these sporty clothes, I will become more athletic. Honestly, one of my favorite quotes, I can't take credit for this, but I will honestly love it, is that the biggest secret of the fashion industry is that attractive people look good in anything. It's not the clothes making these people pretty. They're picking pretty people and then putting them in clothes and then selling those clothes as though it's the clothes' responsibility that these people are in good physical shape. Quite frankly, the only magazine I bother to pick up is Food and Drink, and that's just because it's an amazing example of food photography. And it's free at the local LCBO. That's it. But that's a whole other video to talk about photo shoots in magazines.
see things like this all the time. There's tons of really shitty weight loss advice. There's tons of really just awful, like if you don't eat, one of the ways you can lose weight is if you eat a tablespoon of turmeric every single morning and then have lemon water and vinegar. That's going to boost your metabolism. That is all bullshit. It does not matter what sort of supplement you take if you do not get this right. If you do not get that fact that calories in versus calories out is the most important thing, you will not lose weight, or if you're trying to gain muscle, you will not gain weight. If you're losing weight, you need to eat fewer calories. If you're trying to gain weight, or particularly gain muscle, which you will get fat when you do that, if you're trying to gain muscle, you need to eat more calories.
Oh, hey, accurate fitness advice from the guy who apparently went to post-secondary for fitness. Credit where credit is due.
It is just as simple as that. There is no way around that. It's just a law of thermodynamics. There's no matter that's created or destroyed. There's no energy that's created or destroyed. So if you're saying that you eat less than everybody else, but you've magically gotten fatter, you are breaking the laws of chemistry.
No. If you eat less than everyone else, but you get fatter, it means that you aren't doing shit. Like if you get 5 people together and one of them eats 2,000 calories a day, the other 4 eat 3,000 calories per day, but the one who eats 2,000 calories a day like just burns 1,000 because they do basically nothing. Meanwhile, the people that eat 3,000 calories a day, like they'll go out and do shit. They're either lifting weights or they work physical jobs or they walk or bike everywhere, and they burn 3,000 plus calories a day, then yeah, the person who's eating less will gain more weight. But that is because they're living a more sedentary lifestyle. It does not mean that they're breaking the laws of thermodynamics because, oh, hey, they're eating less and gaining more weight. No, they're using less energy and eating more than they are burning. That's why that's why they're gaining weight. So, I mean, okay, in principle, he's making sense, but there's nuance that actually makes the difference. It doesn't just matter how much you eat, because everyone lives different lifestyles, and those different lifestyles necessitate different amounts of energy being burned on a daily basis. There's a huge difference between someone who drives to an office and sits at a desk all day versus someone who hauls heavy shit around all day. Those people can eat the exact same amount of food, and you're going to see weight gain in the one that sits at the office and weight loss in the one that hauls heavy shit. It's not breaking thermodynamics, that's completely consistent with it. But I guess nuance is too much for an 18-minute video about getting the basics right.
Basically. And I made an argument about this in some other video.
You're arguing this coming from a guy who beats like his weight. Like, let's be honest, if it's just a matter of calories, then why have we not seen any fat vegans? I'm serious, that's actually a mystery to me. If it's truly just a matter of calories in, calories out, why aren't there any fat vegans? Do all vegans just carefully count their calories? Or is vegan food something that doesn't break down well enough to actually give the body calories, and so most of those calories end up in the sewer system? That's curious. That's curious. I'm somewhat curious about that, and it's one of those questions that I'd ask Sean if he ever decided to, quote unquote, grace my channel with his presence. But Sean, if you want to answer that question, you can comment on the live stream or the segment video. Not that you're going to, but you could.
I can't remember which one it was, but your genetics are not making you fat. You're eating too much food is making you fat. If you're saying that you magically get fatter off the same food, you're basically saying that the laws of matter don't exist. But anyway, since the most basic thing of losing weight is to eat fewer calories, that's one of our big basics. That's, being overweight puts you at risk for a lot of things. It puts you as a higher risk of cancer. It puts you as a higher risk of colon disease.
Keep in mind, there is actually a subtle difference. I'm just flashing back to high school biology here. But if you've ever looked at the molecule of, say, table sugar or fructose versus a grain, like a polysaccharide, like grain, like bread, that is a long chain of hydrocarbons that needs to be broken down into glucose before it can be used. So it takes energy to break down heavily fibrous materials. Whereas something like, just raw sugar, which is just glucose and fructose shoved together to make sucrose, that's very easy to break down. So if you eat a lot of bread, it actually takes a lot more energy to break down the bread into usable glucose than it does to break down sugar into usable glucose. So if you eat the same amount of calories in bread versus the same amount of calories in sugar, you will obtain fewer calories from the bread because it took more energy for your body to break down the bread into something useful than if you had the raw sugar. So there is calories, but the thing is, calories are calculated by determining how much energy something emits when it is burned, when it's set on fire. Calories are not factored into whether, how they are kept. Fire is a great equalizer that way if you're just determining, how much energy does this produce in heat when it's set on fire. But that's very different from how a body breaks it down. I guess I'll try to break it down. If you eat 1,000 calories in sugar and versus eating 1,000 calories in bread, your body will gain a higher percentage of calories from the sugar than it will from the bread. I hope that makes sense, chat, but that's why it does determine, to a certain extent, it matters what you eat. But if you're eating 10,000 calories a day, it doesn't really matter whether you get it from bread or sugar. But if you're eating, say, 3,000 calories a day and your margin of error is a couple hundred calories, then whether or not you get your calories from bread or sugar does actually make a difference. This has been biology with the gray ghost. Let's continue.
Put you at a higher risk of joint problems, heart disease. I think I said cancer, right? So all those things just by being overweight. If you lower diabetes is the last one. If you just lower your weight, all of those things vastly by got massive percentages like 90% or like 80%. Even just exercising 3 times a week reduces your chance of heart disease by 60%. And that's not even saying that you have to be healthy weight. So you making these very, very small changes have drastic effects, and drastic effects over any sort of drug that we can possibly give you. And that's not even talking about what the healthiest diet is.
I really wish that they'd go more into an example of what qualifies as heart disease, because from my admittedly limited understanding, most heart disease has to do with clogs in your cardiovascular system. And yeah, if you regularly get your blood to pump at a higher rate, it's kind of like flushing out your plumbing. Like, you want your blood to be pumping a little bit faster throughout your body so that it knocks loose all the debris that could potentially cause, clots and strokes. That makes sense. It's kind of like they say, oh, exercising regularly prevents heart disease. That's fine enough, but it's kind of like saying, yeah, brushing your teeth prevents cavities. Okay, is it true? Yes, but it doesn't really explain the mechanism as to why. Whereas if you say that, hey, you need to brush your teeth to make sure that you introduce oxygen throughout all the gaps in your mouth, because the bacteria that break down your teeth and take a crap in your teeth in order to break them down and create cavities, they can only live in an environment without oxygen. So by introducing oxygen to the surface of your teeth, you reduce the amount of bacteria that can shit in your mouth. And that's why brushing and flossing is important. So, I understand you need to oversimplify stuff for people who can't understand the more complex understandings. But at the same time, it's frustrating because just saying that exercise prevents heart disease doesn't really explain why it prevents heart disease, and therefore people won't take it as seriously because they're not understanding what even causes the problem in the first place. And we don't have the luxury of saying oh, well, we just don't know. No, we do know. We do understand why heart disease happens because we have a definition for what heart disease is. So, at the very least, having a better understanding of what heart disease is and how exercise prevents it is. Personally, I think that would go a lot further. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think that giving a more detailed and nuanced understanding of what heart disease is and how exercise prevents it would encourage more people to do stuff that reduces their risk of heart disease. Whatever, I'm rambling. Let's just keep going.
Now, there is some use in this. I think in the major dietary trends that are going on right now, I think I mentioned them already. We've got paleo, we've got keto, we've got vegan.
Future hope. What is your thoughts on semen retention? From the discussions that I've had with MMA fighters, there seems to be some validity to it improving your performance. And I'm not just talking semen retention in terms of, hey, don't jerk off. No. I've spoken with active MMA fighters who their coaches say, no, you are straight up banned from any form of ejaculation, whether it's by yourself or with a partner, until you have done your fight. So, considering them, fucking respect capitalism. So I would think that if your coach is going to say, in order to maximize the effects of your training, you better not have sex, then I do think that there's some validity to it. However, I don't think that it is something to do for like a year straight, because there's also some negative effects, like some various forms of cancer you do need to run the pipes through every now and again. So like it's entirely a personal choice, but if you're going to go that route, I'd say like combine it with working out, and that there are some benefits to your muscle gain and your strength training and your sports stuff. But at the same time, like don't like say I'm going to completely do it for a year, like completely retain it for a year. Like I'm going to retain it for 6 months on end. Like, I'd say at absolute most 3 months before you run something through the pipes. So I hope that that suffices as an explanation. I'm not an expert on the subject, but that's what little I've picked up from talking with people who are far more knowledgeable or are directly involved in a field where that is necessary. But let's continue.
And gluten-free. Those are all the four big ones. There's more than that, but those are the big. I guess you've got Ayurvedic diet or raw vegan or blood type diet, which is bullshit. Ayurvedic diet's probably bullshit too, even though that's kind of like the yoga style diet. I think that's total crap. Much like the blood type diet, which has makes a lot of scientific claims and has a lot of basically zero research behind it. And I'm fine with people saying that they believe that, but you need to disclose that you're not being scientific about it. In my fairly non-tested opinion, what I've noticed with these people who go on these major four diets, again, gluten-free diet, paleo diet, ketogenic diet, and vegan diet, or...
Oh, yeah. The other thing, I'm going to say this, because I do have a bit of a history in biology. Restricting your intake, like you have a biome inside your body of bacteria. And they exist by breaking down the food that you introduce. If you restrict your diet, you are reducing the biodiversity of your internal biome. That is not good, because that makes it harder for your body to break down certain materials. And I really think that a bunch of this whole gluten-free stuff, I think that if you reduce the amount of gluten in your diet, it's entirely possible that you are then starving to death all the gluten-eating bacteria in your body and actually giving yourself a gluten allergy, simply because your body doesn't have the bacteria inside it anymore to break down the gluten. So I'd advocate you should have a diet that is highly varied to maintain an internal biodiversity so that you can eat a large variety of foods. Because if you have a diet that doesn't allow for a large diversity of foods to be eaten, you may very well be restricting the amount of foods that you can eat. I'm not an expert in this field, but that is my understanding of it. And from what I studied while in university for this, yes, your internal biome of bacteria does matter a lot when it comes to your other body states, including your psychological health. So maintaining a healthy internal biome is a huge part of your health, but I wouldn't expect Mr. Studied Fitness to understand microbiology of the internal human body. We have a half hour to go, and we are not even at the 10-minute mark here. So I'm just going to let him talk for a couple minutes to try to rush this through before our 3-hour cutoff. Holy crap.
Vegetarian, close enough, is that they add limitation into the diet. And in fact, if you want to have anything interesting to happen to you, if you are free range to do everything, if you have perfect freedom is very, very boring. Not to say that we should be under a tyranny. You should certainly, if you should have the freedom to do whatever you want. But when you have that freedom, it's very important that you set certain limitations. I'm only going to do this within these boundaries. Otherwise, you become bored or you start making lots of mistakes. So one of the big things that these diets do, all four of these diets do, and this is why I really think these things are making people healthy. It's not any sort of particular thing about the food, but it's about the limitations that they create. And let me just talk about this from my perspective, because I've been a vegan for almost 4 years and a vegetarian for about 6 years. Is when I walk into the store, I see it very, very differently from the average American.
Yeah, and let me be honest, even though you've apparently, at this point in time, no longer been a vegan for a year and a bit, you still look like one. So, I think your internal biology is kind of fucked. You probably can't even process a bunch of the foods that you now permit yourself to eat.
When the average American walks into the store on their typical diet, they can eat everything that's in the store. Whatever they want, without limitations. When I walk into
Hey, as a somewhat typical Canadian with a typical Canadian diet, I refuse to eat products which are vegan. I will not touch any of that Beyond Meat stuff. If something says vegan, I treat it like poison. Because so far as I'm concerned, it is.
the store, 90% of the shit that's on the shelves, I can't touch. Most of the stuff I can touch, or the most of the stuff I don't have to look at, is all in the produce section. It's all in the whole food section. The place where you essentially want to be, whether you're eating meat or not, is... Yeah, so when I don't...
That's nothing special. I look at 90% of the stuff on the shelf and think, yep, not eating that. I've got maybe my 5 items that I eat on a regular basis. Or, okay, I'll be honest, maybe it's more like 20 items. Like, yep, that's the stuff that I'm going to eat. And that's the stuff I'm going to take. And then that's about it. Like, most stuff in the frozen food section, no, I don't bother with that. But, got to rush through this, so let's just keep going.
don't have as much. Now, of course, the only reason this works is because I picked something that I can commit to. If I had very, very low commitment to a vegan
Yeah, I picked something too. It's called I don't pick overpriced expensive crap.
diet, if I wasn't serious about it, if I didn't have my reasons for doing it, well, then I'd just walk into the store and anytime I wanted to cheat, I'd say, well, let me go get that.
No, I'm restricted too. And I'm like, no, I'm going to pick something that I think is good for me health-wise. And I'm going to pick something that is reasonably priced. Like, I don't need to have some sort of artificial restrictive diet like vegan in order to cut 90% of the store off my list. Like, you'd be hard-pressed to get me to pick up something like a tub of ice cream. I mean, it'd be perfectly fine for me to eat, but it's not really something that I want to pig out on. Meanwhile, I was like, hey, want to treat myself? I'm going to grab like a bunch of sausages and I'm going to cook that up with some nice olive oil because I know that the corn oil and mazola oil is absolute dog crap. Like, you don't need to have a heavily restrictive diet to limit the selection of food in the grocery store to just the stuff that you prefer or enjoy or you know is good for you.
Let me just go get a block of cheese because I want a block of cheese today. And of course, a block of cheese is a shitload.
Hey, for no reason, hey, I am very specific about my maple syrup. You don't get your maple syrup from the grocery store. That stuff is garbage. You get your maple syrup from the independent farmer's market because you know that stuff just processed out of the tree. Like, if you're going to get Canadian maple syrup, you get the right Canadian maple syrup. You don't get any of that crap. You get the stuff that came from your freaking co-worker that has a maple sugar bush in his backyard and does it for a hobby. That's where you get your maple syrup. Or failing that, your local farmer's market or your freaking street sale. That's where you get it. You do not get it off the shelf at a grocery store. It's like honey. Seriously, are you going to get some of that honey that comes in a plastic bear? No, you're going to get the jar of actual stuff that comes from someone who farms honeybees as a hobby or as a side gig. or heck, professionally, but they do it for all the organic stuff. No, 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 no. You treat your maple sugar like your honey. You get the best quality stuff because the other stuff is basically just flavored sucrose. Yeah, you know you're Canadian when you have a stricter taste in honey than most people have in wines.
Low calories, and that would make me fat. Like, I think I would be massively overweight if I was not a vegan. Because if I go to a place like Costco,
Have you ever seen a Brazilian churrasco? Great. Sweet Jesus, it's bulking food. I have not. I could use some bulking food because right now I have to rely on KFC Goy Swap as the closest thing I have to bulking food and like freaking what's it called? Mass gainer. That's basically it. And guess what? It's still not working. I'm still not gaining weight. This stuff is hard to do for me. It's embarrassing to admit how little I weigh right now. It's fucking shameful. I gotta bulk more.
hopefully Costco is a fairly national store. If you don't have a Costco, it's like a Walmart, like a big warehouse store where you can buy.
No, Moon. It's not just that fresh honey sounds nice. No, like if you leave the stuff that comes in the plastic bears, it goes all crystallized and solid and becomes a mass. No, proper honey, you can keep that stuff on your shelf forever and it will not spoil. It will not expire. There's a world of difference between the processed honey that you get at the grocery store and the proper honey that you get from a farmer's market.
Things in bulk. If I go into Costco has tons of fantastic looking foods. They've got, a cheesecake for $10. It's like a $5,000 calorie cheesecake that I would just eat in one day. You can buy massive pizzas. You can buy, again, bigger than a regular store.
Sure, you can buy massive pizzas, but how the heck are you going to eat that in one sitting? Like, I can reasonably pack away a medium pizza in one sitting. But a large pizza, even at my hungriest, that stuff's hard to put away in one sitting.
Buy massive blocks of cheese for very, very cheap.
Yeah, it's mass gainers, sucrose, and whey protein. Look, I'm looking for the calories. I need it in something that I can eat quickly, and I'm not particularly picky about where I get it. Like, when you need to eat over 3,000 calories a day to not lose weight, I can't afford to be particularly picky about where I get them.
Cheap. And so if I went to that store without my vegan glasses on, I would be buying all that shit constantly. But because I've taken this limitation, because I've taken this lifestyle up, I can't do that. It's a little bit harder. And so I'm not encouraged to impulse buy. And that's the big thing with this stuff is if you can set yourself to one of these diets, all of them take away they take away processed foods. Processed foods basically just being, there's a bigger definition of processed foods. It's like any food that's been what was that guy? I think this is one of the vegan guys who said this. I think it was a McDougall or something like that. But a processed food is something good is taken out and or something bad is added into it. And not processed food, a whole food is something that has nothing good has been taken out and nothing bad has been added to it.
Again, vague definitions for good and bad. Like, don't define your terms here. Just say good and bad and trust people to supplement their own definitions for everything in. Like, seriously, Sean, I know that my opinion doesn't matter to you, but until you define your definitions, good and bad coming out of your mouth means absolutely nothing. Yeah, Frost, honey buns and peanut butter. I have not seen honey buns anywhere. I don't know if they exist anywhere locally. Peanut butter, like, unless I'm scooping that stuff out of the jar, like, heck, I don't know when I'd have the opportunity to eat it. I just don't eat enough. It's that's entirely my issue. But we're about halfway through this. Come on, let's just. You know what? Fuck it. I'm putting this guy on freaking 1.25 times speed. Like, screw this. He rambles on for way too long anyway. This worked before. We're just going to go faster through his content because I don't think I can bear another 9 minutes of him rambling about bullshit.
Because if you take like a potato and you leave everything on it, but you mash it up, you might say that mashed potatoes are a processed food. But if you look at it, you say, wait, the skin's still there, everything's still there, and I didn't add anything terrible to it, so it's still a whole food. Now,
Oh god, this is actually so much nicer. We can get to the points faster. So yeah, no, I gotta start remembering to put these things on faster modes every time he starts talking because it takes way too long to just listen to him ramble.
of course, you can add a ton of processed crap to it, and you can add like butter and cream and margarine and all this stuff like that, and then that would make it not as healthy for you. But the potato itself, as long as it's still in its form where you have not removed the skin, it is
Honestly, aerodynamic, what I do is I usually mix up the mass gainer into a kind of cookie dough format. Probably wouldn't be a bad idea to just, but I use butter as kind of a base. So mixing peanut butter into mass gainer to make kind of a mass gainer peanut butter cookie dough. That doesn't sound like a bad idea to get a whole bunch of calories out of it. So I'll probably pick up some peanut butter tomorrow and give that a shot. But yeah, let's hurry through this.
still considered a whole food. And so all these diets put you in those sections. They put you in the section of limitation, they put you in a section away from processed foods, and they generally keep you on the outsides of the stores. That's you in the middle of the store, generally is where all the processed food is. The outsides of the stores is generally where all the whole foods are. That's pretty much how every store works that I've been to. There's only maybe like a couple exceptions that I've seen where stores are not designed like that, because this is how people are used to shopping. Middle aisles are for the processed foods, outsides of the stores are for the whole foods. Actually, probably, I think even gluten-free is a little bit lower. Gluten-free might be just as limiting as vegan. Like if you went like gluten-free or soy-free, you'd have a really hard time eating processed foods because that's most processed foods are full of gluten and soy. And so it's something like that.
Honestly, I don't know about that too much because most of the time, at least my local stores, the outside of the store is where they put all the refrigerated stuff, which is like the meats, the vegetables, but it's also the frozen food section. So, I don't know, American stores are probably laid out slightly different from Canadian stores, but like you want to put your frozen and refrigerated stuff on the outside because it's easier to insulate. But like if I look at something that's like, hey, it's pre-cooked, just toss it in the oven to reheat it, yeah, I assume that it's fairly nasty. Whereas if it's like, hey, you either need to cook this or freeze this, or at the very least refrigerate it so that it doesn't go bad, then it's probably half decent to eat.
Now, actually, soy-free is a good one too. So if you're really having trouble losing weight, if you really want to make it easier, first, you have to find some way to eat less. There are plenty of strategies of doing this. I'm going to sound like a broken record here, which is to say that if you are new to this, if you are not good at losing weight, what you should do is just start off with something that is better than zero. So if you normally eat, here's the example I always give, if you normally eat 5 pizzas per day, and that's far too much, what you should do is don't go from 5 pizzas to 1 pizza. You might eventually get to 1 pizza, but what you should do is go from 5 pizzas.
I honestly, future hope, I'm not concerned about fat content. From stuff that I've picked up, fat is actually better for you than sugar, and most of the time things that are low fat or fat free add sugar in order to supplement the flavor that is taken away by reducing fat. So I don't care much about low fat, and personally I just find canned fish disgusting. Entirely personal matter. I do not like canned or processed or preserved fish in the slightest. Maybe it's to someone else's taste, not to mine. But that's side tangent. Let's keep going.
To 4 pizzas and 3/4. That is a step in the right direction, but it's almost nothing. It's so easy to make that decision. And by the time you adjust to that, so let's say you wait 2 weeks and you're still eating 4 pizzas and 3/4, by the time 2 weeks has passed, you will have adjusted to the new amount. Your body will not want as much pizza, and then it's extremely easy to go to 4.5 pizzas. And then you wait 2 more weeks, and it's going to be extremely easy to go to 4 pizzas. As you eat less, your body will want less. As you eat less processed food, it'll be easier to not eat as much. And so if you take this slowly, if you take your time, if you buy time in, your body will adjust. But
this coming from a guy who, well, I mean, I guess he said he's been fat in the past, so maybe this is good weight loss advice. I don't know, like maybe I just should try to eat more every single day. Maybe try the opposite thing that he's doing. But whatever, let's just keep going.
not only that, you're going to learn certain tricks because your mind's active. You're going to say, okay, I feel like this when I eat this, and this is bad for me, so here's a counter way of going about that. Like one of your counters that is absolutely essential is if you're trying to lose weight, you should never go to the store hungry, ever. You will make a ton of crappy decisions when you do that. Another thing that you will learn, that you have to learn, is If you have food around you that's bad for you, that you like eating, you will eat it. So if you're not supposed to be drinking soda and you've got soda on your countertop and you look at it every single day, eventually you're going to drink it. You're going to have a moment of weakness and you're going to say, you know what, that soda doesn't sound that bad. Let me go ahead and drink that. What you want to do is,
Why would you have soda on your countertop day after day, somewhere visible, if you weren't going to drink it? I'm in agreement. You either pour that stuff out or don't buy it. Like, I gave up smoking. It was fairly easy. Just, hey, don't buy cigarettes. Don't have cigarettes on hand, because I know that if I have them handy, I'm going to smoke them. But you just say, like, hey, I'm not going to go out and buy them. Then you just don't, and then you don't smoke. So, fairly simple, bare basics. Like, children understand that the most effective way to not do something is to reduce the stimulus that you're even aware it's a possibility. I believe there was an exercise in self-control where someone was told, like, hey kid, I'm putting a piece of candy on the table. If you don't eat the candy for 5 minutes after I leave the room, then I'll give you 2 pieces of candy. The most successful kids were the ones who either looked at something other than the candy or covered their eyes so that they couldn't see it. Like, again, this is a concept that children get.
make it as hard as possible to drink soda. So if I'm going to drink soda, I'm going to have to drive all the way to the store to go and get it. Certainly if you're in one of the middle America.
You know, HMK, yeah, family unhealthy when you're trying to be this. It's a thing with alcoholics that I see. It's like people are like, oh, I'm going on a diet. It's like, yeah, you go on a diet, but then you go meet up with family where everyone's drinking booze, and then you break your diet by drinking a crap ton of wine. It's like, oh, well, there, my diet's ruined. It's like, yeah, that's because you keep going out during the holidays to a bunch of people who you know are going to have alcohol on tap at all times. That's why I'm pretty sure a bunch of my coworkers probably couldn't quit smoking, because at least half the crew smokes, and if you don't, they'll offer you cigarettes. So it's like, guys, come on. If you want to get off of eating or consuming something that's bad for you, you got to spend a while away from the stimulus. But that's a separate issue, and rush through this. 13 minutes left in the time, and like less than 6 minutes left. Come on, we can do this, guys. We can get through this.
States are one of these southern states. Driving to the store might be like a 20-minute trip, as opposed to here where you can drive to the store in 5 minutes. Even the
Wait, what do I do for exercise weights? I pick up heavy shit all day and carry it around and drop it down. I ain't gonna get into more detail, but I work out 5 to 6 days a week in order to earn money, and then I supplement whatever else that I don't work out at home using various free weights and some workout equipment that I've picked up. So, basically, if work and home gym don't do it, that's about it. But that's me. Let's keep going.
5-minute thing is probably, here in California, I mean, even 5 minutes is still, it's still not to say no to it. So you can't keep that shit around. You can start off with small things like that. And as you're working your way down, what you should do is start putting little things off limits. But again, when you put little things off limits, it should be barely anything. And one of the ways I started this out with, because I didn't jump to being vegan right away. It took me 6 months to go vegetarian, and it took me a year and a half to change to vegan. So this is well thought out, well planned. So my transition was 2 years or so, actually probably a little bit more than 2 years. And so what I started out with was to say that, okay, high fructose corn syrup is not great for you. It's highly addictive, and it's extremely processed sugar. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to buy products with high fructose corn syrup in it, but if it has cane sugar in it, that's fine. Now, cane sugar, still bad for you. However, it's not as addictive, and it limits a lot of the unhealthy products. Like if I don't have high fructose corn syrup, I can't eat Oreos. Now, of course, I might be able to buy the store brand. I might be able to buy Numinos or Newman's Own. It's like basically a Paul Newman Oreo. And those are a little bit harder to find. So I'm going to have less options. If I'm somewhere I'm not familiar with, they might not have that. So I guess I don't get to eat Oreos then. And I get to find something else. You play this game. It's like, what can I limit? What am I willing to limit? And can I stick to that? And of course, every time you stick to one, if you stuck to it for a while, you will get used to it. And then you add one more. And eventually what that might turn up into is it might turn up into a soy-free diet. It might turn up into a gluten-free diet. It might turn into a paleo diet. And it might turn into a ketogenic diet or a vegan diet. But I really think the true power of these things is that they limit processed foods. They help you They help put blinders over your eyes over all the crap that you can eat and keep you focused on the outside of the stores. And so that's what I think most people should be doing. Get yourself off of processed foods. Find ways for you to eat less. Find something you can commit to, and you will avoid most of our common health problems in Western society. You will avoid type 2 diabetes. You will avoid heart disease. You will avoid lots of different types of cancer. You will avoid colon problems. You will avoid...
Imagine an adult man going out and buying a thing of Oreos. Like, I mean, I didn't even like Oreos that much as a kid. I would not buy Oreos as an adult. So, this guy was apparently like trying to go on restrictive diets, I'm guessing in his early to mid 20s. And he's like, oh, well, I'll stop buying Oreos. Why the heck were you impulse buying a bag of Oreos to begin with? I don't get it. I just don't get it. Let's keep going.
I'm missing one. Well, you'll avoid a lot of things based on joint problems if you're overweight. If you can just get your weight under control, a lot of really good things happen to you. In fact, I'll post this link in the description. There's a, unfortunately, anecdotal study, but it's a really, really good idea, and I hope this guy who did this does more of it. This is a guy named Mark Hobb, who's a nutrition professor, and he's so tired, because I hate this argument too. The macronutrients thing is so bullshit. If you're going to lose weight, your macros don't matter. If you're going to lose weight, the only thing that matters is how many calories you eat. And this guy sat there and proved it, at least with himself. He's like, okay, I'm so tired of all this bullshit about macros. What I'm going to do is eat a diet entirely consistent of junk food and a little salad, and I'm going to lose weight. What I'm going to do is keep my calorie count down to 1,800 calories per day, and I'm going to eat Doritos, I'm going to eat cake, I'm going to eat Ho-Hos, I'm going to eat Oreos, and all this crap, but I'm still going to lose weight.
Sub 2,000 calories a day? You'd have to have a very sedentary lifestyle to gain weight on that. Like straight up. Whereas, you could probably eat 2,000 calories in absolute junk food, but if you had physical activity throughout the day, then you'd probably lose it all. But good luck maintaining like a decent body weight at 2,000 calories a day when you're burning 3,000 plus.
Now, I can't remember the exact results off the top of my head, but I think in a 2-month period, he lost 22 pounds by keeping his calories down. So he was able to lose weight eating junk food. And not only that, but his heart rate went down. So his heart health started getting better just from eating less food, even though it was crap. Now, I think that...
Yeah, no, Jaded Warlock, exactly. Impulse buying, like, meat or egg. Like, for me, when I want to treat myself, and it's like, I've had enough, like, Goislop fried chicken, I'm like, you know what? I'll get myself some high-sodium, spicy sausages. That's me having a moment of weakness, is buying some spicy sausages. This guy impulse buys Oreos. It's like that freaking, like, Gus meme from Breaking Bad, we are not the same. Like, you impulse buy Oreos, I impulse buy sausages. We are not the same. But let's wrap this up. We're almost done.
Again, I mentioned that as anecdote, but I think if you study that on a very large spectrum, I think they'd find very, very similar results. I think they'd find, if they measured more stuff, I think he didn't measure blood pressure. I think blood pressure probably would go down too, if your case was high blood pressure. So, this is the big stuff. Don't worry.
Yeah, but, okay, here's the thing though, where macronutrients are going to matter. Sodium. Like, you can be a skinny bugger, but if you have a lot of sodium in your diet and very little water, your blood is basically going to turn to syrup, and you'll start to get tingling sensations, like equivalent to blood clots. So, no, like, you're going to talk about blood sugar? No, your macros absolutely matter, but that depends on what's the cause of your high blood pressure. Is it your weight? Yeah, okay, then yeah, you need to cut back on your calories. But are you skinny and have high blood pressure? That's probably an issue with your macros. Just... He studied fitness, gentlemen. This is a man who literally studied fitness and paid tens of thousands of dollars for the privilege of doing so.
About what specific diet you should be eating. Just worry about losing weight. Just worry about finding limitations so it's easier to eat healthy foods. Just worry about eating more whole foods and less processed crap. Not to say that you could never eat this stuff, but certainly try to make it as rare as possible. If you go from eating processed foods 6 days a week to eating processed foods 1 day per week, even though you're still eating them, I think that's a vast improvement. I think your health will certainly benefit from that. So we'll leave that as a YouTube video.
Yeah, genius breakthrough. Paying attention to what you eat results in healthier decisions about eating. This is why vegans think that the freaking vegan and vegetarian diet is so healthy. Because prior to them going vegan or vegetarian, they did not pay any attention to what they put in their bodies.
Episode, and I think I'm going to do quite a bit more of these, so look for more of these in the future if you like them. So if you did like them, how about you hit that like button? How about you hit the subscribe button as well? Or if you know someone who needs a video like this, how about you hit that share button or show it to other people? That really, sharing probably is the most helpful thing you can do for this channel if you like it. So I'd really appreciate that, to say that word properly. And well, thanks again. See you next time.
Except you won't, because this was deleted because he no longer agrees with what he said here, or he feels it's bad for his image, or something else along those lines. So either like the stream, comment on the stream, share the stream, or the individual video segments once I finally get around to chopping these up. But we have made this under the limit, so I'm going to hit the ending scene right now. And once that's done, then we'll be heading off towards Manic Sonic Stream, so I don't feel like you need to click off right away. Thank you all very much for attending. This was far more painful than I expected it to be, but we're going to keep at it till you guys get tired. So peace out, Warband. Y'all have a good night.